Okay, so you've just found out that you've got to do a speech for GCSE English as part of the Spoken Language Endorsement, which is what they call it, and you're panicking a little bit about it. You want to get up to top level marks, you're not entirely sure how to do it. This video is going to massively help you out. Now, the criteria for this are exactly the same across all English exam boards, so this is relevant if you're doing any exam board, AQA, whatever. Okay, I'm going to show you the distinction criteria, and I'm going to talk you through, based on that criteria, how you should go about planning and structuring this task. Basically, it's a speech that's going to last about 10 minutes in total, but in that 10 minutes you're going to have some questions as well. Usually at the end you'll have about 2 or 3 minutes for questions on your topic, and you've got a few different sort of mark bands in there, right? You can get a pass, you can get a merit, or you can get a distinction. Okay, if we're aiming for that top level, for that distinction, here's what the criteria look like across all the exam boards, right? We've got several different things that we need to do. I'm going to talk through each one of them, and then we'll work out how we're going to go about doing it. So our first two are relatively standard. We've got is audible, can you be heard, right? Tick for that, hopefully, if you are actually saying words with your mouth. That should cover that one. Uses spoken standard English. Sounds relatively scary and intimidating. If we have a look at the bullet point down at the bottom, for the purposes of the spoken language assessment, use of spoken standard English means the learner must be intelligible, so you can be understood, and generally use language appropriate to the formal setting of the presentation. Note that, generally use it, right? So if you are understanding the words that I'm using now, and you can make similar sounds with your own mouth and vocal cords, you're going to be fine on those top two, right? So we don't need to worry too much about those two. The next one, though, expresses sophisticated ideas, information, feelings using a sophisticated repertoire of vocabulary, right? So this goes to picking the topic that you're going to do your speech on. For me, what you want to do is pick something that you are passionate about, something that you're interested in, and something that you have an opinion on, right? The opinion thing is going to become really, really useful to us later on. But let's look at a kind of ways of picking a topic, right? Let's say the first one you come up with is why I love cheese, right? You could do a fascinating speech on why you love cheese, and I'm sure there are some people that could come up with sophisticated ideas on that, but really you're aiming the bar pretty low if you're going to do that. And if you've got to do a 7-minute speech on it, it's probably going to be a little bit basic, right? So let's think about a topic that's a bit more sophisticated. Maybe we're going to do it on AI. Now, AI is going to be a bit more sophisticated probably than your love of a particular foodstuff, right? But it's really possible, again, to do quite a basic presentation on AI. If you're going for something sophisticated in terms of ideas, what you want to try and do is set yourself a question that you're going to answer, right? So, and the questions are going to be really useful for other points of the marks as well. So once you've got a topic that you're interested in, a question like, is AI the greatest threat we face as a generation? That starts to get a little bit more sophisticated because you have to start answering it in a sophisticated way. In order to get to that sophisticated thing as well, you're going to need research. So it's not enough just to go, this is what I think about it. You need stuff to back it up. It's going to take a bit of time to go away and do this. So spend the time getting to know the topic as well as possible, finding statistics you can use, finding quotations from experts, bits of research that you can put into what you're talking about. As you're expressing that, as it says here, you need decent vocabulary. Ambitious vocabulary as you're writing your speech is a must if you want to get that distinction up at the top. Our next criteria here, organises and structures his or her presentation using an effective range of strategies to engage the audience. So there's 2 bits here. First off, organising and structuring the presentation. Now you can have a look at my video on English Language Paper 2 Question 5, which is all about persuasive writing, which is essentially what you're doing here. You're writing a persuasive speech that you're going to argue a point of view in, right, for organisation. But broadly what you want to do is, once you've got a question to answer, you want to think about what is your actual opinion on it and be as specific as possible. Try and come up with 2 or 3 reasons why you think what you think, right, and make a note of those. That's what you're going to do as your first kind of couple of sections, right? Here are 2 arguments why I think this is true. Then you're going to try and think about something on the other side. Other people might say this, right, and give that point of view, right? So now you've got 3 different sections to it. You've got structure, which connects from each other. If you're going to get that top level distinction mark, each section must kind of logically lead to the next one. And then important in your structure as well, the start and the end are vital. First sentence, you need to grab people's attention with an arresting rhetorical question or with some sort of unusual statement or something like that, right? Paint a picture in that first sentence, make it short, dramatic, grab our attention. And similarly, at the end, we want to know what we've got to do. Leave us with, this is what should be happening, right? As emphatically stated as possible. That's going to give you a really powerful structure at either end, okay? In terms of the effective range of strategies to engage the audience, now we're talking about what we call paralinguistic features, okay? So not just the words that you've written on the page. If you've just got a section of notes that you're reading from and you're doing it in a monotonous voice like this and you aren't varying your voice at all, you're not going to do very well, you're not going to get the distinction. You need to vary your voice, put emotion into what you're talking about. Use gesture, use your hands as much as possible to express how you are feeling about things. Make eye contact with the audience. That's going to be helpful if you've learned as much of your speech as you can. It's fine to take notes in with you, okay? But if you're just reading it off the piece of paper and you're glued down here, you aren't using effective strategies to engage the audience. It's got to be out towards the audience. So practice as much as you can. Make sure you can express it as clearly as you possibly can, okay? Next one is achieves the purpose of his or her presentation. Now that goes back to our topic setting, right? If we've set a question where is AI the greatest threat to face our generation, and by the end you've answered that question, then I can say that you've achieved the purpose of your presentation. If you said why I love cheese and you've got some sort of vague bits and they've just kind of dumped a bunch of information out there, right? Not really sophisticated. I can't really say whether you've achieved it or not. You haven't really asked the question. So that's what we want, right? Lastly, when you get to the end, listens to questions and feedback and responds perceptively, and if appropriate, elaborates with further ideas and information. You need to know your topic really, really well. So whatever question you are given, you can explain your answer in a fair bit of detail. It can't be a 2 or 3 word response to a question. You've got to get into as much detail as possible. You need to know your facts, and also, if you can, you want to put in different interpretations in there. Some schools of thought would think this, whereas other schools of thought think this. If you can put that in there, you're getting into detail, you're making it, you're elaborating on what's going on, you're giving further ideas, and that's how you're going to get up to very top level marks.